afternoon. I'm going to put this on the floor. Someone remind me if it looks like I'm going to step on it, please. So welcome. Oh, good. Perfect. It's really a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks everybody for coming. I want to congratulate Pete, Danny, and Ben and the rest of the IMS team. Attendance looks great this year. I think it's going to be a really productive week, and the parties look amazing. There really are some fantastic panels and participants this week. I want to highlight a couple that I really recommend because I know everyone's really going to be busy. Daniel Miller, the founder of Mute Records and a personal hero of mine since I was a kid, is going to be speaking as well as being interviewed later this week by Richie Houghton, a man who actually needs no introduction in this community. It's going to be an amazing panel. I can't recommend it highly enough. Jason Bentley, who is a Hollywood icon and did the music with Daft Punk for the movie Tron, is going to be speaking about music licensing. And icon David Lynch is going to be speaking about his music and film intersections in his career. So I really support the idea of getting out to these panels. I know a lot of folks are going to be out late at night, but I really recommend dedicating some time in this room. It's well going to be worth it. I just have a few things I want to say today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of selling music, which I think will be an interesting follow-up to what we just heard. But most importantly, what I want to talk about is why I think now is the time to be optimistic in our community. Especially after that, which is depressing and sad, but a reality. What I want to talk about and what I challenge everyone here to talk about and really have this mindset as you're talking to your colleagues and peers this week is the idea of being optimistic. I think we have the right to be optimistic in this community right now about the opportunities that are in front of us. And I absolutely believe that every conversation approached with optimism is going to get a better result than approaching a conversation in any other way. And then finally, after being optimistic, I do have a few pet peeves that I want to address. The first thing, and I think we just learned a bit of it here, is that the music industry is not a dying industry. What we learned here is that the recorded music transaction business is dead. We're very lucky in our community. Many of us make music and sell music to DJs. DJs have expanded needs beyond the average consumer. They need the file on their device. They need a higher quality file than someone who may pirate. And DJs, time is a premium. They don't want to waste 10 hours searching LimeWire or some rapid share network for a free file. They're willing to pay for it. And that's another reason we should be optimistic in this community, is because we still have a business that can be supported in part by recorded music sales. Unfortunately, however, digital continues to not make up for the lost sales in the physical world that are absolutely due to piracy. I thought there was everybody here just now for the piracy thing? Yeah, maybe. I thought it was interesting that one of the pie charts showed that 85% of people believe that their business had been negatively affected by piracy. That means 15% of the people are just completely confused about what business they're in because they've all been negatively affected by piracy. However, dedicating time and energy to worrying about piracy would be like dedicating time and energy to worrying about when it's going to rain next. It simply will. We'll get an umbrella and we'll still take a nice walk. Piracy will always be here, but remember that every moment you dedicate in treasure or mind share to piracy is a moment you're not dedicating to making the next great record. And that's really the important thing that's going to propel the business forward. As exciting as the Adell CD sales are in the UK, let's not be mistaken, that is an anomaly. And we can all look forward not only to a day very soon where physical sales have depleted to next to nothing and it's effectively a collector's market, but the next step will inevitably be access models. And for those of us who rely on our business being beyond the club world or beyond solely the DJ world, the access model, while interesting and exciting, is definitely a threat to everyone's top line revenue. Subscription access will continue to erode the revenue we can all generate from the fans in a transaction model. However, back to being optimistic, the reason this community is so perfectly primed for mass exposure to the mainstream audience, like it or not, that's what's going to happen. The reason we're so well positioned is we're a global community. And the internet has taken digital media to a place where digital media simply is a global product. It doesn't make sense anymore to release a record in one part of the world and not another one, because it's on rapid share all over the world 5 minutes after you've released it. You need global plans to maximize your revenue into this new world. The good news is more people spend more time listening to music than they ever have before. The portability of music and the access of music has resulted in more time spent in individual people's 24 hours listening to music than ever before. However, people have limited time, so all listening is competitive with our businesses. Going to the club is time not spent listening to music you may have purchased. Spending time listening to the radio in your car is time you may not spend with a Spotify subscription. One thing I challenge everyone to contemplate is that all listening is a behavior you need to find a way to monetize, either through your brand or through a transaction. The good news about our audience is our audience still loves to go out. We have an incredibly unique opportunity to reach our audience in live environments that is all but lost to the middle-of-the-road rock acts in the United States, where the touring business has absolutely collapsed this year. Clubs, however, are growing, and DJs as attractions are massively growing audience at an exponential rate. This gives us the opportunity to stay in touch with our consumers in a physical way that our competitors don't have. In a world with 8 million tracks available at your fingertips, which I think is what Spotify has today, filters become incredibly important. We're also extremely well positioned in this community because the stars in this community, the DJs, have always been about discovery and filtration for their listening audience. We are absolutely uniquely prepared to take advantage of a future where consumers will not have time to sort through 8 million tracks and figure out what they like. What they will do is associate themselves with a brand or a DJ who can help them filter that. Huge opportunity that I urge everyone to explore this year. And finally, your brand is your business. If you need to give away content in order to reach your audience, do so, and simply make sure that your brand is well represented in that transaction so that you may do business with that customer at some point in the future. The reason I'm most optimistic now about our community is I've seen this cycle before of mainstream interest getting interested in our talent, the DJs, the producers. I remember reading in the Wall Street Journal a gazillion years ago when the Wall Street Journal first started using the term electronica to describe this in the United States. That was about 17 years ago. And I know we're going to have an interesting discussion later in the week about the phrase EDM, which is what's become most common in the US right now. But one reason I'm most optimistic, and I've been reminded by this lately in the press, is right now is the 20th anniversary of Nevermind by Nirvana. I'm going to connect this in a minute, someone's smiling at me. If you're old like me, you may recall that that was actually about 15 years later than punk rock was supposed to happen. Especially if you're in the UK, you may remember that the Sex Pistols happened around 76, 77. Well, it was 15 years later that Nirvana broke into the mainstream in the United States. And as far as I'm concerned, that's when punk rock finally broke in North America and mainstream culture. Our culture is absolutely having its Nirvana moment now. And we should be so lucky as to be able to ride a wave that rock music or hard rock music or alternative rock music was able to ride at that time when Nevermind came out. There are some downsides to the rising popularity that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But 25 years after first reaching global consciousness with the likes of Afrika Bambaataa, Frankie Knuckles, and Kraftwerk, electronic dance music is about to be a global phenomenon that absolutely cannot be rivaled. When this happens, we will experience something Nirvana experienced and I think was a big trouble with Kurt Cobain, which is as our audience grows, it's going to become more and more filled with people who are not members of our community. As Dave Grohl put it, our audience will more and more be filled with assholes. That is what's coming. As we evolve to reach a larger audience, there will be members of our audience and artists who we may feel are not part of this small community that we've cultivated over the last 20 years. It's our job to respect them and welcome them into the community and grow with them. Excuse me. For those of you who may remember punk rock days, as it became more mainstream, it effectively became a frat boy phenomenon in the United States, which didn't feel very punk rock to me at the time. And we will absolutely need to embrace the entire world and different personalities. And we're seeing that in the United States with the evolution of new genres that haven't reached their pinnacle of popularity in the US yet. I personally believe there's only one way to survive this, and this is that every label, every manager, every artist continue to simply make the work they love and that they're proud of. If you continue to do the work that you are proud of, an audience will come to you. I guarantee it. And you will feel good about that audience that you've reached as long as you're proud of the work you've made. I have a couple of to-dos while you're all at IMS, some recommendations, some things to think about, to talk to your peers about. And the first is I urge everyone to think about global planning. As I mentioned before, the moment you put out a promo, the moment you put out a streaming link on SoundCloud, your content is available for free pickings at RapidShare. I urge everyone to approach their business with a global plan and strategy. I would recommend that the day you release it for a free stream, a promotion, or for sale, always be the same day. There is no such thing as staggering your releases. And I urge everyone to focus on a global plan as well, so that they can get the most impact with the press, with the internet, which all happens at once, and with retail. I urge everyone here to get their publishing houses in order. This was largely a local business with a few stars that were able to travel globally. We're going to see this market expand globally in a way we've never seen before, and almost all of you have an opportunity to collect publishing money in Brazil or Ecuador that you haven't invested time or energy into looking into. I urge everyone to get their publishing house in order or meet someone who can help them to do that. And finally, with all this talk about internet and globalism, I also urge everyone to act locally. If you are a DJ or a label and you can't be the most popular DJ or label in your neighborhood, you really have no business believing that you should travel the globe touring. I urge everyone to simply get out and play for their neighbors. The Left Set's letter in the United States reported that the average age on the main stage at Ultra was well over 35 years old this year in Florida. I really believe it's everyone's responsibility here to break new talent and to continue to do so. And there's greater demand for it right now than ever before. We're going to have audiences that outmeasure our ability to serve their desire to interact with our community and this music. So I urge everyone to think about how they can break new talent, especially young people who will be the talent of tomorrow that we all rely on. As we're thinking about breaking new talent and reaching new markets, I would like to suggest to everyone that writing songs is actually okay. And that I urge artists, solely the artists who feel that they have it in them, or who care to write songs in addition to writing tracks for the clubs, which I believe to be fairly different processes and fairly different outcomes. But that is what is going to make radio in the United States. And in fact, I would argue that in the United States, what's going on with dubstep right now, besides the fact that it's reminiscent of jungle and hip-hop and that works for people in the US, is that the biggest dubstep artists in the US right now, even though their work is instrumental, just like most of what all of us do, their work is largely arranged like songs. And I think that's part of the reason why some of that stuff hasn't translated as particularly well over to Europe. Nonetheless, that is a huge part of why they're making such an impact in the US market today. One of the things I'd like to suggest is that artists help artists a little bit more in our community. I have never seen in the, until the last couple of years on the internet, the sheer sort of volume of non-support that goes on within the walls of our community, on the social networks, at live events. I urge everyone to work together towards the goal of reaching larger audiences, or at least, if not reaching a larger audience is your goal, then perhaps your goal is to make enough money so that you can do what you love full time. I would like all of us to inspire new participants in this. Event goers are going to be a key part of our market, as they've always been, but in the US, we see William Morris, we see Live Nation, and all the other big touring companies are now putting together these very, very large-scale packages directed at our community. I don't think we should be threatened by that. I think we should all see it as a huge opportunity. I also think we should all see huge opportunity outside of the epicenters of our community. Ibiza in Las Vegas is always going to be a great time for all of us, but Madison, Wisconsin is going to be a more important market in the US. And I'm sure there are small towns in every community you're from that people should be focusing on. It's much easier to be a big fish in a small pond. Work on your small pond first. I'd like to ask everyone to focus on new products. We're so invested in the individual track that I urge everyone at the labels, at management, and DJs and the artists to consider selling their products in new ways. The iPad has over 250 applications in it right now, waiting for beats and stems from producers so that novice users can play with music. Finally, and I know some of the news has been a little on the downside this morning, I want to remind everyone simply to be optimistic. The world is getting bigger for us right now faster than any of us can imagine. We're very lucky to be the place we are in now. Much of the mainstream music business is currently looking to this community, perhaps irrationally, as a savior. I do believe that the next 10 years are going to be significant for each and every person in this room. And I urge all of you to use IMS as a way to expand your base of operations, your network, and your partnerships. In short, be productive and be optimistic, and I hope you all enjoy your IMS, and I hope some of you will come up and introduce yourself to me today. Enjoy.